A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Jenova Ancient Calamity is a plus counters deck with a twist. It's also Mutant Matters. I say Mutant Matters as opposed to Mutant Tribal because I'm not sure there's really that many great mutants that warrants watering down the list just to shoehorn a tribe into it. Plus a lot of includes you'd have in the library are from Fallout, and I'm still reeling from the fact that we're getting all these crossovers, let alone mixing them all together in a deck. That plus the fact that I can't play my beloved Master Biomancer and work more towards a plus counter sacrifice strat instead. Cards like Insidious Fungus, Cankerbloom and Steve sacrifice themselves to their own effects, so once loaded up with counters and turned into a mutant, they'll also draw you a lot of cards as well. In a similar vein, we can use non-creature spells to sacrifice the big mutants, not only to draw but to get the effect of the spell too. Eldritch Evolution, Victimize and Rise of the Witch King cheat creatures into play, whereas Rite of Consumption and Berserk can easily one-shot a player once a lot of counters have been placed on a creature. I've also wanted to play Soaring Half ever since it was spoiled and still haven't had the chance yet. This deck is perfect for it though. Drawing cards to mutants but also making it so you don't have to actually lose the creature. In fact, you get 2 copies of it now. But how do we get the plus counters going in the first place? Well, there's incremental gains to be had from cards that trigger on landfall, which goes nicely with our fetches and land ramp. Obviously the fetches can either be cheap or expensive ones, but regardless they'll really help you get the counters flowing in the early game, especially if you're pointing them at Jenova so that she can hand them out elsewhere. Tribute to the World Tree and the Great Henge give us both counters and card draw. And these creatures actually have other creatures enter with counters, automatically buffing your creatures simply for playing them. Tie this together with the throng of counter multipliers we have in the deck, which all stack with each other by the way, and your individual counters soon turn into tens of counters from a single trigger. It's a shame to lose the counters you sacrifice though, so keep them in the game by casting Host of the Hereafter or the Ozolith, where you could save those tens of counters that will then be doubled once again once they're moved around permanents. You see how it all gets out of hand really quickly? Concentrate on making these creatures massive in the endgame, simply because they have trample written on them, and I see no reason why you can't seriously look at alpha striking players out of the game. You could even ruin people's day by flinging a big creature, refilling your hand, and taking out your opponents all at once with Jared. In fact, I think it's one of those decks that's easier to show you than tell you. So let's do just that. No ramp there, so we're not getting into any of our heavy hitters anytime soon, and yeah, I don't like that, so we mulligan. Okay, well that would be good if we actually had some green mana. Are we going to draw into green mana? I'm not going to risk it. We go down a card and into the green mana with no ramp apart from the Fenrir, but we're already going down a card like I said, so ditch the Evolution Witness. And we managed to draw into our 4th land at least, so Surveil. And another land available to us. Let's go for the graveyard, try and draw into something more interesting. And now draw into a Sol Ring, that's good, so let's go for the forest. And we can ramp this turn with Summon Fenrir. Blue Mage's Cane for the Esper player. And an Authority of the Consuls will have our creatures enter tapped. Noteworthy Assault Talisman's been exiled over here as well. And that is a Stark of Wrath. Can destroy an artifact or creature, so that's probably looking to be aimed at our Sol Ring. He gets down an Ocelot Pride as well. Martyr of Dusk, when it dies create a vampire. Another land for us. I just came out of a game where I couldn't draw into lands for like the first 6 turns. I think it's time to get down Jenova though. And thanks to the second ability on Fenrir, this is going to trigger and have Jenova enter with its first plus counter. Let's drop another forest, and we might as well play the Cankerbloom as well. And that gives a target for Jenova, so making this a mutant and we can sacrifice it to blow something up might steer this guy away from going after our Sol Ring. But if this dies during our turn, we're going to draw a decent number of cards, so this might even just go after our commander. Y'shtola into play for the first time. Noteworthy that this can be done at instant speed, and he hasn't activated it, going straight through to Clivey Lenyo's turn. Cordial Vampire will pile up the plus counters. Cordial Vampire will pile up the plus counters and throws down the commander. Priority now being held up by the Mardu player. He probably shouldn't allow us to untap with this because everyone's at few cards in hand. 2-1 goes in down the middle, so it gains the Demon ability and when it dies it will become a 4/3. Blocks with the Ocelot Pride. So the Pride survives thanks to its first strike. We'll see a vampire and a demon, as well as some plus counters. Alright, and we are allowed to untap with Jenova, that's good. We can do this at instant speed, and as long as we do it on our turn we can draw. And we're going to draw a card from Fenrir when that goes down as well. We didn't get a chance to make this a mutant, but it would kill itself at this point. A creature dying anywhere on the field does trigger the Cordial Vampire, unfortunately. We see yet another land. I think we're fine to go for the Railway Brawler here. We'll plot that and play it out next turn. And then let's go for sacrificing in order to take out an enchantment in the Authority of the Consuls. Hopefully that will keep this thing away from us. We have to do it this turn anyway. Unfortunately, it buffs the vampires even further. Okay, well in hindsight, I should definitely have waited before I decided on Railway Brawler. We could have gone for the Toxic Deluge here and had most of our stuff survive. Oh well, play Farseek and pass. Ardbert, another Final Fantasy legend. Then Lease Hexed. Extinction is destroy all creatures of a type of your choice, so vampire surely. Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose for the vampire player, followed by a Legion Lieutenant. So surprisingly, we are once again making it around the table with our board intact. Go for the Railway Brawler, and the Mardu player still holding up priority on our turn, deciding to let this in seemingly. So now let's try out a Gaia Sage, and it is allowed in, so triggers the Railway Brawler. Luckily Gaia Sage does have a power, so puts a plus counter on itself, meaning it can tap for at least 1 mana next turn. We definitely want to hold up Inspiring Call. I'm not going to rush to go Toxic Deluge yet because we'll eat this in response. So in that case, let's just get down the tap land, and we can pass with both Boseiju and Inspiring Call held up. The last card in the Esper player's hand was a Job Select. Equipment, the White Mage's Staff. Equips the staff onto his commander. Equips the Blue Mage's Cane to it as well. Swings in down the middle with his commander. Still haven't seen any use of Stark yet. And then swings in a couple of 4/4 Vigilance creatures to the right as well. And in response the Stark is going to blow up the commander. So down goes your Stola. But he does gain control of this. We might wipe that out with a Toxic Deluge anyway. And out of time, this phases out all creatures. This is exactly what something like Boseiju is held up for though. Might be that it eats removal from the Orzhov player as well. We'll still have our plus counters when these phase back in. In comes Clavileño again. And I definitely want my creatures back in before our turn, so it's Boseiju onto the out of time. So we get our creatures back before our turn starts here. And then we see a Victimize ready for both sacrificing something and reanimating stuff. I think I want to get down Reliquary Tower before we are made to discard that to a wheel or something. And then we'll go through to the beginning of combat because I want to further buff Gaia Sage. Then we'll do that before a Toxic Deluge, which we're likely doing before the end of this turn. Noteworthy that this has re-entered untapped. I'm not sure. Does phasing in and out untap something? And then it should have Summoning Sickness on it as well, surely. Anyway, we get 5 toughness on the Gaia Sage. And we'll swing down the middle with the Brawler, a 7/7 Reach Trample. And we can actually have all of our creatures survive here. We have to put 4 into Toxic Deluge. And that is going to take out all the creatures apart from ours. I think this might actually be the only creature board wipe in the deck, but it's a good one because we can work around our own high toughness. It does successfully land. And I think I'm going to rely on the card draw from the potential board wipe / spot removal. So I'll hold on to Victimize for now. And we'll just hope that we keep our board intact for another turn cycle. Maybe should have gone for Gaia Sage being sacrificed because we've got plenty of mana already. So having Fenrir and Cankerbloom in play instead might have been good. Y'shtola into play again. Noteworthy that Toxic Deluge is available for the Blue Mage's Staff. So that's exactly what he's aiming for next turn. So I think we definitely want Cankerbloom so that we can blow up the staff. Bladewing the Risen. Can return a dragon from graveyard to battlefield. Of course there isn't one in the graveyard yet. A Bloodline Necromancer is going to reanimate something. You would think it would have to be the Cordial Vampire. And instead goes for veto, which might suggest he's got a combo available to him. We are in a bracket 2 casual fun game though, so it might be a multiple card combo as opposed to just being a 2 card combo. But once again in this lower bracket we are able to untap with all our permanents intact. So I think we are going to end up sacrificing the Gaia Sage. There's an Arwen for this turn as well, is good. Maybe we hold on to Arwen for after the Railway Brawler goes down, but I think we just need to start going nuts with plus counters to be honest. So tap down Gaia Sage to get down the Arwen. Looks as though there might be a Swords or a Path being held up here because he is holding up priority with 3 cards in hand. That enters and gives itself 2 plus counters from the Brawler. Let's now go for the Victimize. Select the only 2 creatures in our bin and sacrifice the Gaia Sage in order to pay that cost. That means that we'll draw 4 cards to Jenova, as well as a Rampant Growth from the Fenrir. The other 2 creatures enter with multiple plus counters thanks to the Brawler as well, so we've got a 12-11 and a 12-11. We'll make this a mutant the next chance we get. Draw into a bunch, including the Lifestream's Blessing, an apt inclusion in this deck. And then we've drawn into Branching Evolution, Host of the Hereafter as well. So I think we're fine. Would I rather foretell this? We're not too low on life. Let's play into a board wipe that we're not seeing apparently, and go for Host of the Hereafter. Entered with 5 plus counters, jumped up to 12 with the Railway Brawler. Another Forest for us, and again holding up the Inspiring Call. Cankerbloom, becoming a mutant, and now it is a 14-13 and we've got no max hand size. Again it's 7 damage going down the middle. And then before the end of our turn, now that this is a mutant, we can sacrifice. We want to do this definitely during our turn so that we can draw the cards. Blue Mage's Cane has to go before it reanimates the Toxic Deluge. Jenova draws a bunch of cards. The Host that we decided to get in will now pile the plus counters onto Jenova. Haven't seen too many plus counters from her, but now she's going to start dumping a hell of a lot every turn onto other creatures because she's a 13-17. Could maybe have done that before combat and swung in for some commander damage as well, but we are looking pretty good now. A player did lose 4 life, so Y'shtola drawing the card for the first time. We don't yet have a Trample enabler, unfortunately, which we do have 3 of in the deck. A Propaganda to make it difficult to swing in over there. We each get drained for 2 by the commander. Vorinclex has Trample and Haste, so that will enter with a bunch of plus counters and be able to hit someone for a lot of damage. Might have to do that next turn. I suppose if we don't see a board wipe, we can always Assassin's Trophy the Propaganda as well. A Dark Knight's Greatsword. Not particularly worried about that one. Knocks us down to 30 though, with the drain from the commander. White Mage's Staff goes on to Y'shtola, as does the Dark Knight's Greatsword. So that is now a 6-5 with Vigilance, and goes to the right. And a player lost life, so draws another card. He is tapped out during this turn cycle though. Psychosis Crawler with only 3 cards in hand and no means of drawing a bunch seemingly. Karmic Justice we'll have to be careful of, but maybe we'll try and Alpha Strike this guy. A Welcoming Vampire to get cantrips on the small guys. This cares about power, so there's a bit of a nombo there with the Anthem effect. Falconwrath Noble triggers on any creature dying, so we'll have to be wary of that. Does trigger Welcoming Vampire straight away for a card draw. I'm thinking we're going to be able to take this guy out next turn. I'm just wondering if to go Assassin's Trophy on here now, or blow it up with the Fungus. That does mean that we're not making Fenrir a mutant, but I don't suppose it really matters. We've got 19 cards in hand at the moment. Yeah, there's nothing to stop us just having this sat in play regardless, so let's go for the Propaganda being blown up. Next time we cast a creature, it will come in with plus counters, so I think that's what we have to do with Vorinclex here. And the Vamp player decides to scoop. That's one less player for us to take out. He was probably last on the list anyway. So here we can go for Branching Evolution, the Hardened Scales, Vorinclex, and still hold up the Inspiring Call, I think. Let's also go for Lazartec Quarry so that we've got a sack outlet on a land. Play the 2 enchantments, and now it's time for the Vorinclex. This does of course mean that we didn't play the Fungus, but I like the pile of plus counters that's going to go on Vorinclex here. Bear in mind it is a base 6/6 and enters with 9 plus counters. Then we'll get even more from the Railway Brawler trigger, which triggers separately. So instead of adding 15 counters, the 15 counters the Brawler wants to add are doubled, and then an additional one, I think, with the hardened scales. So, well, whatever that is, doubled twice and add 1, I think it is. Or add 2 with the hardened scales, I suppose. Anyway, it's a 76/76. Who can work that out? That player decides to throw his friend under the bus, so looks as though this game is over. Turn Fenrir into a mutant. Can't remember if I was meant to do that last turn and just didn't for whatever reason. And doesn't even want to take the damage, but Vorinclex alone would have done it there. So yeah, some clunky plays by me there, but this is the first time playing the deck, so I'm sure you'll forgive that. It was a good showing regardless. I think Jenova's a really fun one, especially in slower bracket 2 variants like this. Gives you a chance to slowly plod along and build up a massive army and go tall. As ever, I do hope you enjoyed it, and I want to give a massive thank you to the patrons for their financial support of the channel. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below. Let me know what you think of the new format of the videos as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.